These are some commonly asked questions about so-called spot bills in the California legislature and spot versus intent bills. So, what is a spot bill used in the California legislature? As described by the Office of Legislative Counsel, a spot bill is one that does not make any substantive change to existing law and would not otherwise affect the ongoing operations of state or local government. On the other hand, an intent bill is one that merely states a statement of the legislature's intent. What are the rules related to these spot bills? These bills, upon their introduction, are merely placeholders for future language. They don't make any substantive changes to existing state statutes, and by the rules of the Assembly and Senate of the California Legislature, spot bills or intent bills may not be referred to a policy committee unless and until the bill is amended to make a substantive change in the law. Why are spot bills used? Basically, because the California legislative session is dependent upon a number of different deadlines, including a deadline for introducing bills, and sometimes legislators simply don't have their bill proposals fully prepared by that deadline time. As such, they need to introduce a placeholder bill and then develop or finalize the substantive bill language that they'll put into that introduced bills. So, how do the legislature's rules address spot bills? Well, there aren't any specific rules on spot bills in the Senate or the joint rules, but there is one in the Assembly rules. That's Assembly Rule 51.5. And it basically says that a bill upon introduction that makes no substantive change in or addition to existing law and would not otherwise affect the ongoing operations of state or local government, except a bill stating legislative intent to make necessary statutory changes to implement the budget bill, may not be referred to a committee by the Committee on Rules. So what's an example of a spot bill? Well, generally you can see it in the Legislative Council Digest because it'll have a sentence regarding existing law, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and then it ends with, this bill would make non-substantive changes to that provision or those provisions. And then it would have a technical change, like changing this state to the state or something specific. The example, what would be an example of an intent bill? For example, related to the budget, this bill would express the intent of the legislature to enact statutory changes relating to the budget bill. And that's in the Legislative Council Digest, and it's the same language that's in the bill. Section 1 simply reiterates the same statement of legislative intent. So what's the Assembly's process of handling spot bills? In the Assembly, a deadline is specified each year by the Rules Committee, which is basically set a few weeks after the bill introduction deadline. And that amendment deadline is to get those changes to the spot or intent bills to the Committee on Rules. Once the Rules Committee has reviewed the proposed amendments, then the Rules Committee refers the bill with the amendments to the relevant policy committee, and thereafter the policy committee processes the amendments to the bill. On the other hand, what's the Senate's process of handling spot bills? In the Senate, the deadline is usually specified in a letter to the members of the Senate to get amendments to the Rules Committee. However, those amendments have to be submitted by that deadline, and then the bill's amendments are submitted to the Committee on Rules, and the Rules Committee makes the amendments to the bill, and thereafter the bill is referred to the relevant policy committee. So there is a difference between how the Assembly and Senate Rules Committees handle spot bills.